Money can't buy you a goddamn thing when death walks through your front gate. I'm Richard Caldwell. I own half the oil wells bleeding through West Texas. Built my empire on broken backs and black crude, and I won't apologize for it. My compound outside Marfa, 300 acres of dust and defiance, cost more than most men see in 10 lifetimes. Iron gates, stone walls, cameras on every scraggly mesquite tree. I thought I was untouchable. October sun was dying over the Davis Mountains when I heard the screaming. Raw, primal, the kind that strips civilization right off a man's bones. My staff bolted past my study window like their souls were on fire. Groundskeepers, housekeepers, even Carlos, my chef, who once stared down an armed robbery in Juarez. Through the glass, I saw why. A Bengal tiger, massive, golden, walking across my lawn like it owned the place. My daughter Thessaly sat frozen on the veranda, book in her lap, 17 years old and too stubborn to run. Hey everyone, excited to share today's story. Subscribe, comment, and catch tomorrow's. Thessaly got her stubbornness from me. Her mother, Elena, died bringing her into this world, hemorrhaged out in a Houston hospital while doctors scrambled and I stood there useless, watching my wife's life pump onto white sheets. I turned that grief into rage, rage into oil wells into an empire that meant nothing without Elena. I raised Thessaly alone, spoiled her rotten trying to fill a mother-shaped hole I couldn't even look at. Private tutors, horses, everything except the one thing she wanted, a father who wasn't drowning in work and whiskey. She'd been different lately, quieter, reading poetry on that veranda for hours, staring at mountains like they held answers I couldn't give. That morning she'd asked me when I last felt alive. I told her I had conference calls. Now she sat 15 feet from a killer, and I was behind glass, frozen like a coward. The tiger stopped, turned its head, looked straight at her. I grabbed the rifle from my desk, loaded, always loaded since the cartel threats last spring, and burst through the French doors. My hands shook. 62 years old, and I'd never aimed at anything that could aim back. "Thessaly," I whispered, "don't move." She didn't flinch, didn't even blink, just sat there with that book, watching the tiger like it was some kind of religious experience. The animal was enormous up close, 400 pounds of muscle and murder. Its coat gleamed in the copper light. There was a scar across its shoulder, thick, jagged, the kind humans make with chains. Some rich bastard's exotic pet, I figured, escaped from God knows where. It took a step toward her. I raised the rifle, finger on the trigger. "Dad," Thessaly's voice was calm, too calm. "Put it down." "Like hell!" "She's scared." She? I looked at the tiger's eyes, saw something that punched straight through my chest. Terror. "Thessaly, that thing will rip you apart." "Look at her, Dad. Really look." I did. The tiger's breathing was rapid, shallow. Its ears kept flicking back. Blood matted the fur on its right hind leg, fresh, dark. It wasn't hunting, it was hiding. Thessaly slowly closed her book, set it down. The tiger's eyes tracked the movement, but it didn't charge. "She's hurt," Thessaly whispered. "Someone hurt her." "I don't care. You should." Those two words carried 15 years of disappointment. Every missed recital, every birthday I spent on conference calls, every time I chose oil over her. The tiger limped closer. 10 feet. 8. My finger tightened on the trigger. One squeeze, and this nightmare ends. Thessaly would hate me, but she'd be alive to hate me. Isn't that what fathers do? Make the hard choices? But I looked at my daughter's face, really looked, and saw her mother's courage staring back, that same stubborn grace that stayed with Elena until her last breath. I lowered the rifle. Thessaly stood up, slow, deliberate. No. The word died in my throat. She walked toward the tiger. 5 steps. 4. 3. The animal growled, low, rumbling, a sound that vibrated in my bones. But it didn't attack, just stood there, trembling, watching this girl approach like she was made of starlight. Thessaly knelt, extended her hand. The tiger sniffed, flinched, then pressed its enormous head against her palm. My daughter started crying, not from fear, from something else, something I'd forgotten existed. "Her name's Zephyr," she whispered. "The sanctuary told me she escaped 3 days ago." The world tilted sideways. "What sanctuary?" Thessaly looked up at me, tears streaming. "The one I've been volunteering at. Every Tuesday you thought I had book club." 6 months. She'd been lying to me for 6 months. Why? Because you never asked what I actually cared about, Dad. You just assumed I wanted your money, your compound, your empty life. The tiger collapsed against her, exhausted. "She's dying," Thessaly said. I knelt beside them, finally seeing the full damage. The leg wound was worse than I thought. Deep, infected, probably from barbed wire. Zephyr's breathing rattled. Her eyes were glazed. "The sanctuary's 2 hours away," I said. "She won't make it." "Then we treat her here." "Thessaly! You owe me this." Her scream echoed across the compound, bounced off mountains that had witnessed 1,000,000 years of suffering and survival. "You owe me 17 years of showing up, Dad. 17 years of giving a damn about something other than crude oil and stock prices. Mom died giving me life, and you've been dead ever since, just walking around, breathing, making money like it means anything. I'd been shot at twice in my life. Once in Venezuela, once in Oklahoma City. Neither hurt like this." Zephyr's breathing slowed, weakened. "Please," Thessaly whispered, not to me, to something bigger. "Please don't take her too." I made my choice. I called Dr. Marlo Vance, the best veterinarian between El Paso and San Antonio. Told him to bring everything, promised him enough money to retire on. He arrived in 40 minutes, helicopter landing on my lawn. We carried Zephyr inside. Thessaly never left her side, held that massive paw while Marlo worked. Antibiotics, fluids, sutures that looked like bridge cables. 3 hours of surgery on my marble floor, blood soaking into Italian tile that cost more than most houses. I sat against the wall, watching my daughter whisper to a dying animal with more tenderness than I'd shown her in years. "She's stable," Marlo finally said. 50-50 chance." Thessaly looked at me. "Stay with us." Not a question, a demand. So I did. We stayed up all night, the 3 of us, and a tiger named Zephyr. Thessaly told me about the sanctuary, how she'd been volunteering, learning, finding purpose I never knew she needed, how Zephyr had been rescued from a breeding facility, how trauma lived in bodies long after cages opened. Zephyr opened her eyes at dawn. Thessaly sobbed, real, ugly, beautiful sobs that shook her whole body. I held my daughter for the first time in years, really held her, and felt something crack open in my chest that I'd welded shut the day Elena died. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know, Dad." Over the next week, we turned the compound into a recovery ward. Zephyr grew stronger, started eating, started trusting. Thessaly barely slept, monitoring her vitals, changing bandages, researching tiger rehabilitation like her life depended on it. Maybe it did. I called the sanctuary, offered to fund their expansion, enough to properly house 20 more animals, build medical facilities, hire staff. "Why?" the director asked. I looked at Thessaly sitting beside Zephyr, both of them bathed in Texas sunlight, both of them survivors. "Because my daughter taught me what matters." The sanctuary director paused. "We need volunteers too." "I know," I said. "When do I start?"
Zephyr returned to the sanctuary 6 weeks later. Healthy, whole, walking without a limp. Thessaly and I drove her there together, watched her step into a proper habitat, acres of land, trees, a pond that reflected sky instead of bars. She looked back once, and I swear she nodded. I sold half my oil interests, funded 3 more sanctuaries across Texas, started showing up, really showing up to Thessaly's life. We volunteer every Tuesday. Sometimes we don't talk much, just work side by side, cleaning enclosures, preparing food, watching broken things heal. Last week, Thessaly brought home college brochures, wildlife biology, conservation, purpose. "Proud of you," I told her. She smiled. "Took a tiger to wake you up." "Took you," I said. Standing on my veranda now, watching the Davis Mountains turn gold, I finally understand. Wealth isn't what you extract from the earth. It's what you give back. Who you save. Who saves you. Sometimes God sends angels. Sometimes He sends tigers. And sometimes, if you're lucky, He sends stubborn daughters who refuse to run.